Dr. Amara Patel stood at the edge of the observation deck, hands wrapped tightly around the railing as she stared out at the emptiness of space. Thousands of stars glittered against the black canvas, each one a testament to humanity's next frontier. She'd spent her entire career studying the theoretical possibilities of faster-than-light travel, and now, at 42, she was about to conduct an experiment that could change everything humanity thought they knew about physics. Countdown to experimental run commencing in 30 minutes, announced the ship's AI, its voice calm and measured. Amara nodded, though no one was around to see it. The horizon was largely automated, requiring only a skeleton crew of 12 to maintain its functions. Most of them were stationed in the engineering bay, preparing for the upcoming test. She was alone up here, which was how she preferred it. The enormity of what they were attempting weighed heavily on her shoulders. Dr. Patel, a voice called from behind her. Final checks are complete. She turned to see Commander Jackson Davis, his tall frame filling the doorway. His dark skin gleamed under the ship's lights, and his expression was one of barely contained excitement. "Thank you, Commander," she replied, pushing away from the railing. "Any anomalies?" "None. Everything's exactly as your calculations predicted." Amara allowed herself a small smile. "Good. Let's proceed then." As they walked together toward the ship's central laboratory, Jackson cleared his throat. "You know, when I first read your paper on manipulating gravitational fields to create localized time dilation, I thought it was impossible." Most people did, Amara agreed. The scientific community isn't exactly known for embracing radical ideas. But here we are, Jackson gestured around them, on the first human vessel designed to test the boundaries of relativistic physics beyond our solar system. They entered the lab, where holographic displays filled the air with equations, simulations, and system diagnostics. At the center of the room sat what the crew had affectionately nicknamed the bubble, a spherical chamber approximately 3 meters in diameter, surrounded by a complex array of gravitational field generators. Dr. Nasir Karim, Amara's longtime colleague and friend, looked up from his console. "There you are. I was beginning to think you'd gotten cold feet." "Never," Amara replied, taking her position at the main control station. Just taking a moment to appreciate the significance. Nasir nodded understandingly. 15 years of work, all coming down to this. "If we're successful," Jackson added, "we'll revolutionize space travel. Colonies across the solar system, perhaps even the stars within our lifetime. Let's not get ahead of ourselves," Amara cautioned, though she couldn't help but feel a flutter of hope. "We're testing a theory, nothing more." But it wasn't just any theory. It was Amara's life's work, built upon Einstein's relativity, quantum mechanics, and the cutting-edge discoveries in dark energy manipulation that had emerged in the 2030s. The principle was elegant. Create a bubble of space-time where the rules of relativity could be selectively applied and modified. T-minus 15 minutes, announced the AI. Amara initiated the pre-test sequence, watching as the gravitational field generators spun up to power. "Begin recording all data streams. I want multiple backups of everything." "Already done," Nasir confirmed. "Primary, secondary, and tertiary recording systems are online and functioning." Commander Davis watched from a respectful distance, understanding that this was primarily a scientific endeavor rather than a military one. The United Earth Space Agency had funded the mission, but with the stipulation that it remain under civilian scientific control. T-minus 10 minutes. All personnel should secure their stations for experimental conditions. Amara's eyes never left the displays. The bubble was now glowing with a faint blue light as the quantum field stabilizers activated. Inside, a small probe equipped with the most sensitive chronometric instruments ever created waited to record what happened when they activated the field. "Gravitational field generators at 70% and rising," reported Nasir. "Quantum stabilizers nominal. Space-time metrics within predicted parameters. Proceed to 85%. Amara ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. This was the moment of truth. Previous tests had been conducted on subatomic particles, then on simple molecules. This would be the first macroscopic object subjected to the field. The implications were enormous. If successful, they would have demonstrated that objects could experience time at radically different rates within relatively close proximity to each other. The first step toward manipulating the light-speed barrier. T-minus 5 minutes. Amara felt a hand on her shoulder and looked up to see Jackson's reassuring expression. Whatever happens, this is already an incredible achievement, he said softly. She nodded gratefully. The commander had been a steadfast supporter from the beginning, fighting bureaucratic battles to ensure the mission got approved and funded. Field generators at maximum capacity, Nasir called out. Bubble integrity at 100%. We're ready, Amara. T-minus 1 minute. The room fell silent save for the hum of equipment and the occasional beep of monitoring systems. Amara took a deep breath and hovered her hand over the final activation control. Begin recording from the probe, she said. Initiating time dilation field in 3, 2. She pressed the control. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The bubble continued to glow its soft blue, and the readouts remained stable. Then, almost imperceptibly at first, the light from the bubble began to shift. The blue darkened, moving toward violet, then ultraviolet, becoming almost invisible to the naked eye. Gravitational field holding steady, Nasir reported, his voice tight with concentration. Quantum stabilizers compensating. Time dilation effect initiating. On the main display, a countdown appeared, showing the expected time passage inside the bubble compared to outside. According to their calculations, for every second passing outside, only a millisecond would pass inside, a 1,000-to-1 ratio. Probe telemetry coming in, Jackson said, moving to a secondary console. My God, it's working. Amara could barely breathe as she watched the data flowing across her screen. The chronometric instruments were indeed registering the dramatic slowdown of time within the bubble, exactly as her equations had predicted. We're actually doing it, Nasir whispered. We're manipulating the flow of time. Hold steady, Amara cautioned. We need a full 5 minutes of stable field generation to confirm the effect. They watched in tense silence as the seconds ticked by. 3 minutes passed without incident, then 4. Just as they were approaching the 5-minute mark, alarms began to sound. Energy spike in the quantum stabilizers. Nasir called out. Field integrity dropping. Compensate. Amara ordered, her fingers flying across the controls. Reroute power from non-essential systems. It's not working, Nasir replied, his voice rising with concern. The field is destabilizing too quickly. Commander Davis moved swiftly to the emergency protocol station. Should I initiate shutdown? Amara hesitated for a crucial second. They were so close to completing the test run. Not yet. Nasir, can you isolate the source of the instability? Working on it, he replied, but his expression was grim. There's something strange happening with the quantum readings. It's like, wait, that can't be right. What? Amara demanded, moving to his station. Nasir pointed to a particular set of readings. These particles, they're exhibiting properties consistent with tachyonic behavior. Tachyons. Amara's eyes widened. Tachyons were hypothetical particles that traveled faster than light, something considered impossible by conventional physics. Are you sure? The signature is unmistakable, Nasir confirmed. But how? He was interrupted by a blinding flash from the bubble. The blue glow suddenly intensified, then collapsed inward before exploding outward in a wave of energy that washed over the lab harmlessly thanks to the containment protocols. When they could see again, the bubble appeared normal, but the probe inside had vanished. What just happened? Jackson demanded. Where's the probe? Amara was already reviewing the data, her heart pounding. I don't wait. She paused, staring at one particular reading. That's impossible. What is it? Nasir asked, joining her. According to these readings, the probe didn't disintegrate or get destroyed, Amara said slowly. It moved instantaneously. Moved where? Jackson asked. Amara looked up, her face pale. I don't know yet, but the last telemetry we received suggests it was accelerating beyond light speed, just before it disappeared. 3 days later, Amara sat alone in her quarters, surrounded by data displays. She had barely slept, working tirelessly to understand what had happened during the experiment. The rest of the crew had been giving her space. Recognizing the intensity of her focus, a soft knock at her door finally broke her concentration. Come in, she called. The door slid open to reveal Nasir, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. Thought you might need this, he said, offering one to her. Thanks, she replied gratefully, taking the mug and inhaling the rich aroma. "Have you seen the latest analysis?" "I have," Nasir said, sitting across from her. "And I'm still having trouble believing it." Amara nodded. "I know. It defies everything we thought we understood about physics." What they had discovered upon examining the complete dataset was nothing short of revolutionary. The extreme time dilation they had created within the bubble had apparently caused a cascade effect in the quantum field, generating what the sensors identified as a wormhole-like phenomenon. The probe hadn't just disappeared, it had been transported. "The signal," Nasir said quietly. "Have you told the commander yet?" "Not yet," Amara replied. "I wanted to be absolutely certain before making such an extraordinary claim." The signal was perhaps the most baffling aspect of all. 18 hours after the experiment, their deep space communications array had picked up a transmission from the probe. According to the triangulation data, the signal had originated from a point near Alpha Centauri, over 4 light-years away. "It shouldn't be possible," Nasir said, shaking his head. "Even if the probe somehow traveled faster than light, the signal it sent back couldn't have. Unless," Amara said slowly, "the probe created a persistent quantum entanglement effect when it transitioned. A communication channel that isn't bound by light speed limitations." They sat in silence for a moment, contemplating the implications. "We need to replicate the experiment," Amara finally said, "with modifications, better containment, stronger field generators, and more precise measurements." Nasir nodded. "I've already started working on the upgrades." "But Amara," he hesitated. "What if we actually succeeded in finding a way around the light speed barrier?" "Do you realize what that means?" "It means everything changes," she replied simply. "Everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe, our future as a species, our limitations, all of it changes." The news of their discovery was met with skepticism from Earth at first. The 18-minute communication delay between the Horizon and Mission Control made detailed explanations difficult, and the initial reaction was that their instruments must have malfunctioned or their analysis was flawed. Commander Davis had been supportive throughout, advocating for Amara's team and ensuring they had the resources to attempt a second experiment. 2 weeks after the first test, they were ready. "Modifications complete," Nasir reported as they gathered in the lab once more. "Field generators upgraded, quantum stabilizers reinforced, and we've added 3 redundant monitoring systems." Amara nodded approvingly. "And the probe, enhanced with additional sensors and a more powerful transmission system," Jackson replied. "If it goes somewhere again, we'll get better data this time." This time, they weren't just passive observers. They had carefully calibrated the field to reproduce the exact conditions that had created the tachyonic effect before, but with greater control. If they were right, they would be able to direct where the probe went, at least to some degree. "Target coordinates set for a 0.5 astronomical units from our current position," Amara confirmed. "If this works, the probe should reappear there, still within range of our short-range sensors." "All systems ready," Nasir reported. "Field generators at pre-activation levels." Amara took a deep breath. "Let's make history. Begin the sequence." Once again, the bubble glowed blue, then shifted toward violet as the time dilation effect took hold. This time, they were prepared for the energy spike that followed, immediately routing additional power to the quantum stabilizers. "Field holding steady," Nasir called out. "Time dilation at target levels." "Tachyonic signatures detected," Jackson added. "Building exactly as predicted." Amara watched the displays intently. "Prepare for transition in 3, 2, The flash came again, though less intense than before thanks to their improved containment. When it cleared, the probe had vanished just as before. "Scanning for probe signal," Jackson said immediately, directing the ship's sensors toward their target coordinates. For several tense seconds, nothing happened. "Then contact," Jackson exclaimed, picking up the probe exactly at the target coordinates. The room erupted in cheers and applause. Amara felt tears stinging her eyes as she looked at the confirmation on her own display. They had done it. They had deliberately sent an object faster than light to a specific destination. "Telemetry coming in from the probe," Nasir reported. "All systems functioning normally. No damage detected. Initiate recall sequence," Amara ordered, hardly daring to believe they might achieve a round trip. They had programmed the probe with instructions to generate its own transitional field if the experiment was successful. In theory, it should be able to return to them using the same principles that had sent it away. Minutes ticked by as they waited. Then, with another flash of light, bubble flared, and the probe reappeared inside it. Full system diagnostic, Amara requested, her voice trembling slightly with excitement. Nasir's fingers flew over his console. Probe integrity at 100%. All recorded data intact. Amara, we just sent something faster than light and brought it back again. Commander Davis stepped forward, his expression solemn. Congratulations, all of you. What you've achieved today will change humanity's future forever. Amara knew he was right. With this technology, the stars were suddenly within reach. Not just the nearest ones, but potentially the entire galaxy. Human expansion and exploration would no longer be constrained by the vast distances between star systems. Send a priority message to Earth, she instructed. Tell them we've opened the door to the stars. The return journey to Earth took 3 months, during which time Amara and her team refined their theories and conducted additional experiments. By the time they reached Earth orbit, they had successfully transported objects up to the size of a small shuttlecraft, though only for short distances. The reception that awaited them was beyond anything Amara had imagined. Their discovery had sparked a global renaissance in physics and engineering, with research teams around the world working frantically to understand and expand upon their breakthrough. 6 months after their return, Amara stood on a stage at the United Nations headquarters in New York, addressing representatives from every nation on Earth. What we've discovered, she explained, her voice carried to billions watching worldwide, is not just a new technology, but a new understanding of the universe itself. Space and time are not the rigid constraints we once believed them to be, but flexible, manipulable aspects of reality. Behind her, holographic displays showed simulations of their technology in action, demonstrating how the carefully controlled time dilation effect created what they now call transitional corridors, pathways through which objects could effectively bypass normal spacetime. We stand at the threshold of a new age, she continued. Within a decade, we believe we can construct vessels capable of reaching Alpha Centauri in weeks rather than decades. Within 2 decades, the entire galaxy becomes our frontier. The implications extended far beyond mere travel. The ability to create controlled time dilation fields had applications in countless fields, from medical research, where biological processes could be dramatically slowed or accelerated, to manufacturing, where complex materials could be synthesized in seconds rather than hours. After the address, Nasir found Amara staring out at the New York skyline from a private balcony. Quite a view, he commented, joining her at the railing. It won't look the same in 20 years, she replied. None of this will. We've changed everything, Nasir. He nodded thoughtfully. Are you having second thoughts? No, she said firmly. But I'm thinking about responsibility. This technology, it could unite humanity in a common purpose, or it could become another source of division and conflict. That's why we insisted on open publication of all our research, Nasir reminded her. No one country or corporation can control this. It belongs to everyone now. Amara smiled faintly. True, and the consortium is coming together nicely. The International Space Exploration Consortium had been formed specifically to develop and implement faster-than-light technology for peaceful exploration. The first prototype ship begins construction next month, Nasir said. They're calling it the Pathfinder. Will you be on it? Amara asked. They had both been offered positions on the maiden voyage. Nasir laughed. Try and stop me. What about you? Ready to see what's out there firsthand? Amara turned her gaze upward, to where the first stars were becoming visible in the darkening sky. Absolutely. We opened this door. We should be the first through it. 5 years later, Amara stood on the bridge of the Pathfinder, Earth a small blue marble visible through the viewing port behind her. The ship was massive compared to the horizon, designed specifically for FTL travel with an enhanced version of the technology they had discovered. Final systems check complete, reported Captain Melissa Rodriguez from the command chair. All stations report ready. Amara nodded, feeling a familiar mixture of excitement and nervousness. As chief scientific officer, she had overseen every aspect of the ship's FTL systems. This would be the furthest jump ever attempted directly to Alpha Centauri in a single transition. Nasir stood at a station nearby, now serving as the ship's quantum field specialist. They exchanged a brief glance, remembering how far they had come from that first experiment. Transition drive spooling up, announced the flight engineer. Field integrity nominal. Time dilation effect initiating. Unlike the experimental bubble, the Pathfinder generated its field around the entire vessel. The ship's interior would experience the journey almost instantaneously, while outside, in normal space, only about 48 hours would pass. Approaching transition threshold, Nasir reported. Tachyonic signature stable. Corridor formation proceeding as expected. Captain Rodriguez looked to Amara. Dr. Patel, would you like to give the order? It seems fitting. Amara stepped forward, her heart full. This moment represented the culmination of her life's work, but also the beginning of something far greater. Humanity's first intentional step beyond its home solar system. Engage transition drive, she said clearly. Take us to the stars. The stars outside the viewport seemed to stretch, then blur, as the ship entered the transitional corridor. There was a moment of disorientation, a strange sensation like falling in all directions at once. And then, Alpha Centauri blazed before them, no longer a distant point of light, but a brilliant star filling their view. Around it orbited planets never before seen up close by human eyes that a cheer erupted throughout the bridge. On the main display, telemetry confirmed what their eyes were telling them. They had arrived, for 0.37 light-years from Earth, in what had subjectively been less than a second. Transition complete, Nasir announced formally, though his voice was thick with emotion. All systems nominal. We've arrived. Captain Rodriguez rose from her chair, gazing at the star system spread out before them. Begin standard survey protocols. Let's see what's out there. As the crew set to work, Amara found herself drawn to the viewport once more. They had done it. They had crossed the void between stars as easily as early humans had once crossed rivers and valleys. And this was just the beginning. You know, Nasir said, coming to stand beside her, they're already drawing up plans for ships that can reach the galactic core within months. Our great-grandchildren might explore other galaxies. Amara smiled, all because we asked a simple question: what happens at the extreme edge of time dilation? The answer had changed everything. Humanity had overcome its greatest limitation, the vast, seemingly insurmountable distances between stars. The universe, in all its immensity, was now open to human exploration and discovery. As the Pathfinder moved deeper into the Alpha Centauri system, Amara thought about the generations to come. They would be born into a civilization that spanned the stars, for whom interstellar travel was commonplace. They would venture further, discover more, push the boundaries of knowledge and exploration even further. And it had all begun with a scientist's experiment with time dilation, an experiment that proved that faster-than-light travel wasn't impossible after all. It was merely waiting for humanity to discover the right question to ask. The stars, once unreachable points of light in humanity's night sky, were now destinations. And humanity, true to its nature, would reach them all. Alpha Centauri was just the beginning, Dr. Amara Patel said, looking out at the eager faces of the Academy's newest class of interstellar pilots. Now in her 70s, her hair had gone silver, but her eyes still burned with the same passion that had driven her breakthrough 3 decades earlier. In the years since Pathfinder's first journey, we've established outposts in 17 star systems. We've discovered life, simple microorganisms, but life nonetheless, on 2 exoplanets. We've mapped transitional corridors reaching nearly 1,000 light-years from Earth. She gestured to the holographic display showing the expanding network of human exploration. And we've only just begun. The technology continues to improve. The latest generation of ships can transition across 10,000 light-years in a single jump. A young cadet raised her hand. Dr. Patel, what's the theoretical limit? How far could we eventually go? Amara smiled. It was the question she had been waiting for. That, cadet, is what you and your generation will discover. Current theory suggests that with sufficient power and precise enough field control, there may be no limit at all. The entire universe could be within our reach. As the lecture concluded and the cadets filed out, Nasir approached from where he had been watching at the back of the room. Though retired from active service, He still consulted on new developments in transitional physics. Inspiring the next generation? He asked with a smile. Someone has to, Amara replied. They'll go places we never dreamed of. Together, they walked to the Academy's observation dome, where the Milky Way spread out above them in all its glory. But it was no longer just a view. It was a map of humanity's future. Sometimes I still can't believe it all started with us, Nasir said softly. That one experiment on the horizon, it would have happened eventually, Amara said modestly. Someone else would have discovered it if we hadn't. Perhaps, Nasir conceded, but it was us. And now humanity will never be confined to one world, or one star system, or even one galaxy. We've ensured our species can spread as far as it wishes to go. Amara nodded, gazing up at the countless stars above. Each one a potential home, a destination, a new frontier for human exploration and discovery. The universe was vast beyond comprehension, but no longer beyond reach. Not bad, she said with a smile. For a species that once thought nothing could travel faster than light. The stars twinkled overhead, no longer distant and unreachable, but welcoming humanity to the greatest adventure in its history.